You know, we're always kind of looking up, aren't we? To space. Space exploration always makes the headlines. But right here, on Earth, there's a whole other frontier, just as important, maybe even more relevant right now, and it's under the waves. India just did something pretty amazing, actually. They successfully tested their Matsya 6,000 submersibles.
Oh, wow.
This thing can travel 6 kilometers deep. And this isn't just about having a cool underwater vehicle, you know. It means India's really stepping up into a whole new era of exploration and what they're capable of.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. This progress with the Matsya 6000, it really shows how committed India is getting to deep sea technology.
Yeah.
And not just the tech, but exploring the deep sea too. It's like they're recognizing just how much opportunity there is down there. And not just for science.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. India's big ambitions for this underwater world. We're getting our insights from some recent in-depth reporting from the Indian Express. They've been doing a great job highlighting just how important all this is.
Absolutely.
Now, for you listening, especially if you're prepping for the UPSC exams, think of this as a deep dive, pun intended, of course, on a really important topic. We'll be covering stuff that's relevant to both mains and maybe even prelims.
Right.
We want to make sure you get it. Nice and clear, insightful, but not bogged down with a bunch of technical jargon.
Exactly. Keep it concise.
So the goal today is to really get why this deep sea stuff matters for India. We'll look at the tech they're using, the challenges they're facing, and the path they're taking, all while thinking about how this affects India's progress and where it stands in the world.
You know what's really interesting? Matsya 6000 isn't just some random project. It's part of something much bigger, the Samudrayan project.
Yes.
And that's part of India's deep ocean mission.
So there's like a whole strategy here.
It's a whole coordinated effort.
Okay, so let's start with the star of the show, Matsya 6000. What exactly is it, and why is this testing such a big deal?
Okay, so Matsya 6000 is what we call a human-rated submersible. Basically, it's designed to take people way, way down underwater, safely, of course.
Of course.
And this is all thanks to the brilliant minds at India's National Institute of Ocean Technology, NIOT for short. They're an autonomous institute under the Ministry of Earth Sciences, and they're the ones behind Matsya 6000. It's actually the heart of the whole Samudrayan project. And the coolest thing, it can go down 6 kilometers. That's like seriously deep. But it's not just for sightseeing down there. The main goal is to explore and figure out what kind of mineral resources are down there in India's exclusive economic zone.
So basically, they're sending researchers down to the seabed to see what's there, what resources they can find. That sounds pretty high-tech.
It is, very much so. And you have to see this in the context of the Samudrayan project and the whole deep ocean mission. This is India saying we're serious about the deep ocean. It's strategically important to us. They want to be one of the few countries in the world that can send people to such depths. It's about being in that elite club.
Right, a small group of countries that can actually do this. So we know what Matsya 6000 is, but why is all this deep-sea exploration so important for India? And I don't just mean the scientific discoveries. Vice Admiral Biswajit Dasgupta, retired, had some interesting things to say about this in the Indian Express.
He did. And what he said is really important for understanding the bigger picture. He basically argues that if India wants to be strong economically, if it wants a strong digital infrastructure, and if it wants to be secure as a nation, it needs to be good at deep sea stuff. It's all connected. It's not just about science. It affects everything.
So a much broader impact. Let's start with the economic potential then. The Indian Express talked a lot about INTLOS and India's exclusive economic zone, or EEZ. Can you explain what the EEZ is and how it relates to all these deep-sea resources?
Absolutely. So UNCLS stands for the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. It's a big international treaty, like the rule book for everything that happens in the oceans.
Makes sense.
And one of the key things in UNCLOS is this idea of an exclusive economic zone, an EEZ. And what that means is a country has special rights over everything within 200 nautical miles, or about 370 kilometers from their coastline. That's their EEZ.
So it's like a big underwater territory that belongs to them.
Exactly. And within that EEZ, a country like India, they have the right to explore and use all the natural resources there, everything on the seabed and the water, everything.
So India has this huge underwater area that stretches for hundreds of kilometers. What kind of valuable stuff are we talking about finding down there in the ECs?
Oh, in India's EC, it's believed to have tons of untapped resources, and a lot of it is on the seabed. For example, there are these things called polymetallic nodules.
Polymetallic nodules?
Yeah, they're kind of like potato-sized rocks, but they're full of valuable metals. things like manganese, nickel, copper, and cobalt. And the thing is, the demand for cobalt and nickel, it's going to explode in the next few years. They're crucial for batteries and electric cars and all sorts of clean energy tech. If India can get these resources from its own EEZ, it wouldn't have to rely on imports as much. It would be a big advantage in the global energy game.
So it's strategic, too.
Very much so.
You're right.
And it's not just the nodules. There are also gas hydrates. They could be a major energy source in the future. And then there are rare earth elements, super important for all sorts of modern tech, from electronics to defense systems. On top of that, there's the potential for oil and gas reserves in the water itself. And then there are all the marine bioresources, stuff that could be used for food or even medicine. All of this is going to be more and more important as India's industry and energy needs grow.
That's a lot of potential. So it's not just about digging stuff up from the seabed, though, right? The Indian Express mentioned oceanographic and climate data, too.
Oh, absolutely. When we explore the deep ocean, we get all this data that helps us understand how the planet works. We can create better climate models, improve weather forecasts, all that. The deep ocean plays a huge role in regulating the Earth's climate. It absorbs heat and carbon dioxide. So if we can study it directly, we can make better predictions and create better environmental policies.
And there's also the whole digital infrastructure thing. The undersea fiber optic cables that carry most of the world's internet traffic. I was shocked to learn that over 95% of international data goes through those cables.
It's mind-blowing, isn't it? It shows you just how vital these cables are for the whole world. And for India, being able to secure those cables, keep them working, and maybe even expand the network, it's super important for their digital economy. Having that independence in the digital world is a big deal.
Which brings us to something else the Indian Express talked about, national security. It seems like the deep sea isn't just about science and the economy. It's becoming a place where countries are competing strategically.
Exactly. And anyone thinking about India's future in the world needs to understand that. As more and more countries develop deep sea technology, it's only natural that it becomes a place of strategic competition. The article even mentioned China's progress in this area. They talked about China developing a cable cutting device. Pretty scary stuff. Shows you how vulnerable these undersea cables are. So India needs to be able to monitor what's happening down there. They need to be able to protect those cables and have countermeasures in place. It's about national security.
It's not just about the rewards then. It's also about protecting what you already have and making sure you're safe in a world where things get a little bit tense. All this sounds incredibly ambitious, though. What are some of the big challenges India is facing? I know the Indian Express outlined a few key technological hurdles.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy developing deep sea tech. The deep ocean is harsh. Just the scale of it, the environment, it's a huge engineering challenge. The article mentioned that the average depth in India's EEZ is something like 3,741 meters. To give you an idea, that's almost 4.5 times the height of the Burj Khalifa.
Wow. Yeah, that puts it into perspective.
And at those depths, the pressure is insane, over 380 atmospheres.
Yeah.
Anything going down there has to be built to withstand that kind of force.
Mind-boggling. What are some of the specific technological problems India is working on right now?
There are a few big ones. Communication underwater is a major headache. It's not like radio waves, which travel easily through air. Sound waves are really affected by the temperature, the pressure, the saltiness of the water. It makes long-range communication really difficult. And the systems you need for that kind of communication, very low frequency and extremely low frequency sound systems, they're incredibly complex and expensive to build and operate. They're the only way to talk to something deep underwater over long distances, but they're not easy.
So it's not just as simple as picking up a walkie-talkie.
Nope, not at all. And then, of course, you've got the challenge of actually building something that can survive that crushing pressure. The submersible can't just implode.
Right.
So pressure resistance is key. The design, the materials, everything has to be cutting edge. And Indian Express brought up the OceanGate Titan submersible, the one that was lost in 2023. Tragic reminder of what can happen if you don't have the highest safety and engineering standards. No compromises allowed when you're dealing with those kinds of depths.
It's serious business. And it sounds like all this technology, the expertise you need it, requires a lot of investment, a real long-term commitment.
You got it. This isn't something you do on a shoestring budget. You need massive investment, and it has to be consistent. Then you need long-term research and development, and you need to train highly specialized people. Countries like China, the US, Japan, and France, they've been pouring money into this for decades. They've built up a lot of knowledge and skill. India's catching up fast. Projects like Matsya 6000 show that. But they still have a way to go.
So knowing all that, what are the next steps for India? The Indian Express had some good suggestions from experts.
Yeah, they did. One of the biggest ones was about how things are organized. They said India should upgrade the Department of Ocean Development, make it a whole Ministry of Ocean Affairs, with a cabinet-rank minister in charge. The idea is that this would give the whole thing more importance, more attention, and it would help coordinate all the different government agencies and research institutes that are involved in this stuff.
So a more centralized approach.
Exactly. Having a dedicated ministry would show everyone that India is serious about this. They also talked about how deep sea projects should be run. They said these projects need a mission mode approach, clear goals, clear deadlines, enough money in the budget, and ways to track progress and make sure things are getting done efficiently. Basically, they're saying India needs to invest more and move faster.
Seems like good advice.
Yeah.
And if they want to keep making progress, if they want to be self-reliant, they need to invest in research and talent.
Couldn't agree more. They need to create centers of excellence in universities and research labs focused on deep sea science and tech. That's how you encourage innovation. That's how you make breakthroughs. And that's how you train the people who are going to be running this whole thing in the future.
The Indian Express also talked about how private companies could help speed things up.
Yeah, they said the government should encourage private companies to get involved in all sorts of deep sea activities. Exploration, extraction, laying cables, doing salvage work, even building submersibles. Public-private partnerships are key. Private companies can bring in investment expertise, and they can help things move faster.
Makes sense. And finally, it seems like India needs a clear vision for the future, a long-term strategy.
Absolutely. They need a roadmap, a 10-year plan maybe, with clear milestones for everything: technology, governance, infrastructure, national security. That way, everyone knows where they're going and how to get there, and resources can be allocated effectively. And the Indian Express made a really good point about the dual-use nature of this technology. A lot of the tech that's developed for scientific exploration, it can also be used for military purposes, and the other way around too. So developing this deep-sea capability, it's not just about science or the economy. It's about national security too. It should be a top priority for India.
So to sum it all up, India's successful test of the Mantia 6000, it's a huge achievement. It shows they're serious about the deep ocean. But as we've seen from the Indian Express, there's a lot more to do. If India wants to really benefit from this new frontier, economically, scientifically, and from a security standpoint, they need to invest in technology, improve governance, come up with a clear strategy, and be willing to put in the resources.
Exactly. If India wants to be a major player on the world stage, they need to be able to understand and operate in the deep ocean. It's not just about going deep. It's about securing India's future in a world that's getting more and more complex.
Powerful stuff. So here's a question for everyone listening. What needs to change in India's approach to ocean governance and technology in the next 10 years? What are the fundamental shifts that need to happen? It's something we should all be thinking about, especially those of you studying for the UPSC exams. This deep sea stuff, it's not just a science topic. It affects everything. It's about the economy, international relations, national security, the whole picture.
It's a rapidly changing field with huge implications for India. Stay informed and keep thinking about the big picture.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive on India's deep sea ambitions, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. We love hearing from you, and we'd love to keep this conversation going. All the information we talked about today came from the excellent reporting by the Indian Express. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
See you next time.
Bye for now.